You've been lied to. You've been taught that closing is all about having the slickest line, the best script, and one-liners. I thought the same way for a really long time. My team and I has lost countless deals because of this mindset. But then I discovered something that changed everything. 90% of deals aren't won at the close. They're won in the first 15 minutes. Over the next hour, I'm gonna show you the rules that I broke to double our close rate and the exact framework that we have used to generate over $50 million in online revenue. What I'm about to teach you is diagnostic consultative selling. If you're looking for the best tips and tricks, this isn't the video for you. And transparently, that stuff doesn't work anymore. It's about helping people that want your product or service make the right decision for them and disqualifying everybody else fast. Really quick, my name's Javi Chavez, and our brands have done over $50 million in online revenue. I've hired and fired hundreds of sales reps over the years, so I have a pretty big sample size across tons of different industries. This training is going to be universal. Whether you're doing high ticket, selling services, anything, this is going to be the most bulletproof video on the internet. And at the end, you can let me know in the comments if I did my job properly. Let me start by telling you what's wrong with some of the most common sales advice out there. The first one is always be closing. This phrase has probably destroyed more sales careers than anything else out there. The reality is if you're always closing, that means you're pushing for the sale. It's 2026 now, guys. Buyers are savvy. They can tell when you're pushing, and when you have that commission breath, you're probably not gonna close. The best closers I have ever interacted with, they're always even keel, and the close just happens almost naturally because they have done such a great job in discovery that the prospect just is guided down this path and they end up closing. The second piece of advice is handle objections with rebuttals. I remember getting Grant Cardone's book, the Closer Survival Guide. And granted, there are some great closes in there, but the problem is objections are symptoms. They are not illnesses. If you're constantly fighting objections and the same objections, you did not do discovery properly. It's like a doctor treating a fever with an ice bath instead of searching for the infection. The third piece, and I used to subscribe to this so much, is match their energy. I remember when I was doing like face-to-face sales when I was 18, 19, they would tell you match their energy. And so you'd go on the appointment and you would always want to be like one notch above their energy level, which is in theory great advice. But the thing is, if the prospect is frazzled or whatever, you don't want to match that energy. You set the tone. The best closers I've always interacted with, they show up the same on every single call. They're even keeled. They are presenting their questions and their product the exact same way every single time, and they come across professional. This framework I'm about to show you is the exact opposite of those principles. And it works because it closes the way humans actually interact, not just the way we wish they did. All right, enough about what not to do. Let's get into the actual framework. There are 8 phases to any sales interaction, and the time allocation is what's most important at each one of these stages. Phase 1 and 2 is frame and context. You should be spending about 5 minutes here. It's just setting expectations of what this call is going to entail and establishing authority. Phases 3 and 4 are where it starts to get really important. You have the pain stack and then the consequence ladder. This should be 15 to 20 minutes minimum. This is where you earn the close. And most inexperienced reps, they're only spending about 5 minutes in this stage. And that's why they lose. Phases 5 and 6 are desired outcome and commitment. This should take about 8 minutes. You want to define the win and also confirm they're serious. Next is phase 7. This is the pitch. You notice how late it actually comes in the call. If you do phase 3 and 4 properly, the pitch barely matters. And I know that's a crazy thing to say, but truly, if you follow this framework, what you're selling and the pitch becomes so much less important than the discovery questions. Phase 8 are objections and the actual close. This should only take 5 to 7 minutes. And I know because I analyzed all my team's calls, my best closers, they spent this much time, 5 to 7 minutes in the actual close because they did such a good job with phases 1 through 6. If you've done everything properly, the close should just be about payment terms. I'm going to talk about the framework in a little bit here, but if you do it right, by the time that you get to the actual close, they will already have confirmed that they're sold on your product, and all you have to do is just talk about delivery, logistics, pricing, etc. Here's the key. If you rush discovery just to jump into your pitch, you will spend twice as long overcoming objections. The math always balances out. Either you do the work up front or you pay for it on the back end. Now let's break down each phase, starting with how you take control in the first 60 seconds. Phase 1 is all about taking control of the call before anything else happens. Most people skip this and now they're playing catch up the entire rest of the conversation. Here's what happens when you don't set a frame. The prospect starts taking control of the call, asking you a list of questions, and you're just in this recovery mode the entire time. You become basically a walking FAQ page, and at the end of it, those 45 minutes, the prospect gets everything they need, you have no leverage, and they hop off the call and go talk to the next person. I learned this the hard way really early on in my career because I thought that if I had enough product knowledge and if I was the most knowledgeable person, I would be able to close more deals because like that's why people buy. They buy logically. That's what I thought, at least, because that's how I bought. As a young kid, I thought being nice and knowledgeable and accommodating was professional. It wasn't. Truthfully, it was being weak. Phase one leverages what psychologist Robert Cialdini calls the authority principle. People are hardwired to follow the authority of a credible professional. The first 60 seconds is how you establish that you're the expert. You're accomplishing three things simultaneously. Number one, setting the tone that this is a structured conversation, not just a chat. Number two, pre-framing that you might not work together. Three, and you're going to get a micro commitment that they're going to make a decision at the end of this call. Number three is super important. Most people don't do this, but let's break down a script that you guys can copy. All right, so here's the exact script, how I would say it word for word. Hey, I appreciate you taking the time. Let me quickly break down how I run these calls just so we're on the same page. I'm going to ask you some pretty direct questions about you, your goals, what you're trying to accomplish. If it looks like I can genuinely help, I'll break down how. And more importantly, if I can't help, I'll let you know right away so that way we're not wasting each other's time. At the end, you should have all the information needed to make a clear decision about moving forward one way or the other. Now let's break down exactly why we said it and why it's important not to skip anything I just mentioned. Number one is stating, let me tell you how I run these calls. This is a calm, confident assertion of leadership. You're the guy. You're not asking for permission to lead. You're assuming it. The next thing that we say that's super important, if it doesn't look like a fit, I'll tell you that too. You got to say some variation of that. It's called takeaway selling. This communicates that you're not desperate, you're selective, and you're very clear about who you work with and who you don't work with. The funny thing is, by saying that you won't work with them, it actually increases your perceived value. The most valuable piece and probably the most overlooked piece is this right here. Asking for a clear yes or no decision at the end of the call. You are pre-framing and already overcoming the I need to think about it objection. By them agreeing to your terms right here, you've already eliminated that objection out of their mind in the first 30 seconds. How many times have you gotten I need to think about it? By just adding this small little phrase and getting them to agree, you're already pre-handling that in the first 30 seconds. The last phrase is something along the lines of, hey, sound fair? This is a micro commitment. When they say yes, they are psychologically agreeing to play by your rules for the rest of the call. I implore you, do not rush past this. Wait for them to confirm and say yes. The thing is, though, it's not the words that you say, it's how you say it. 60% of communication is non-verbal. You need to check your tonality when you're running through this introduction. In the first 10 seconds, people are making an assumption of you and whether or not they decide to listen. So don't be jumping on the call. Hey, let me tell you how this call usually goes with this nervous energy. We need to be clear. We need to be direct. And we can even pause. Salespeople are afraid of pauses. Salespeople are afraid of a slower cadence. But the slower you communicate, the more perceived value there is, and the more that people are actually holding on to every single word. Another mistake that salespeople make, and this is key, is if you get a half-hearted response, if you get a sure or yeah, whatever, address it immediately. You can say something like, hey, I want to make sure that we're on the same page and you're actually bought in. Is there something about this format that isn't working for you? Check them right from the jump, and I guarantee you they're going to respect you more for it. The problem is if they don't agree to your frame right now, they're going to disagree with you the entire call. So I would rather nip it in the butt right now. Let's get on the same page and let's talk about what you're really looking for. Now let's jump into phase two. Once you set the frame, now we can start diagnosing their challenges and their problems. The thing is, a great doctor doesn't just ask, hey, where does it hurt? The first thing they're going to do is ask you about your lifestyle, your habits, and your history. This principle is context before pain. Jumping straight into what's your biggest challenge is jarring. It's like a therapist asking you, well, what's traumatizing you within the first 5 minutes of meeting you? Situational questions that the prospect ease into having a conversation with you so that way you can ask the harder questions later. Here are 4 clear, easy, universal context questions. Question 1 is, what got you on the call with me today? Or what prompted you to fill out our form, go to our website, click the link, etc. This uncovers the trigger event because clearly something broke and something made them psychologically put their name, email, phone number into a form so that way you could reach out to them. A bonus would be to ask 1 or 2 more follow-up questions to that response. Next question is, hey, give me some quick background. What does your current situation look like? This, I'm just trying to get broad context so I can dig in deeper. What's their business model, their experience level, team size, etc. I just want to get big picture concepts. That way I can pick where I want to narrow things down later. Question 3 is so valuable. Hey, what have you tried so far to solve this problem? What else have you looked into to solve this problem? Brownie points if after they say, hey, I tried XYZ, you ask, okay, well, how much did you spend on said thing? Or how long has that been a challenge? Why didn't it work for you? All of those questions are gold, especially the first one. When you say, hey, well, how much did you spend on said thing? You're already getting an idea of their budget by asking that question indirectly. This also reveals their sophistication level and any past failures. These might be roadblocks down the road. So you want to make sure that you address them. When they say, hey, yeah, I tried XYZ, you're going to say two things. What did you like about working with them? And more importantly, what did you not like? The reason why you ask the what did you like question is because most salespeople are just going to jump, okay, well, what was bad about them, right? You want to be a step above. You're going to say what went really well with them and what didn't you like and what are you looking for in your next solution? Question 4, this creates the natural bridge from this phase to the next. It's what's working right now and what isn't. When they talk about what's not working, this is the doorway into pain. While they're answering these questions, you're listening for 4 core things. Number 1, the trigger event. What made them reach out to you? Number 2, their sophistication level. Are they brand new? Have they tried 10 different solutions in the past? Number 3, past failures. What worked and what didn't work? And what limiting beliefs might they have around your product or solution? And number 4 is their current state, team size, revenue, etc. And here's the critical piece. Take notes of the words they use. You want to be able to use those exact same words when you're pitching and presenting down the road. When people hear their own language referred back to them, they feel deeply heard and resistance subconsciously drops. Before we move to phase 3, we have to talk about the landmines that will blow up deals if you don't do these things properly in the very first few phases. Number 1, and I see new reps make this mistake all the time. They go into interrogation mode. They have their list of questions and they're just firing them off like a robot, checking off boxes, going down the list. The fix is to, number 1, ask 2 or 3 more follow-up questions or clarifying questions around each one of the things they said. And you're going to listen, you're going to mirror, and you're going to label what you hear. It sounds something like this. The prospect says, yeah, I've been running ads for the last 6 months and it just hasn't been working and converting the way I want to. You're going to respond with something like, okay, so what I'm hearing is you've been running these ads and they're not converting and you've been doing it for 6 months. Wow, that must be frustrating. Did I understand you correctly? And then you can move on to the next one. Sounds redundant, but it is extremely powerful. The second one, and this is lethal. When I see sales reps do this, it kills me inside. They jump in and start pitching too early. Once when they hear a prospect say something like, hey, I'm struggling with email open rates, that immediately turns from you being somebody who's diagnosing like a surgeon to a free consultation. You're going to give them tips right away. You're going to give them the way to solve their problem in the first 10 minutes. And then they're going to say, hey, thanks for the free info and move on to the next one. This is seriously lethal. And this is a mistake that I used to make all the time because I wanted to be the educator on the call. Your job in phase 2 is to collect data, not be a consultant. You're going to hold that in because silence now turns into leverage later. Mistake number 3 is rushed energy. High ticket sales requires calm, direct, confident tones. If you're talking faster than normal than a regular conversation, then you're probably going to lose sales. This is super important. The speed of your questions signals how much you care about their answer. Rush them, and you're telling your prospects subconsciously that you're just rushing to get to the pitch. Mistake number 4, if you're on Zoom or face-to-face, is not visibly taking notes. You're telling them that their words don't matter, and you're going to forget the exact language to use when you're going back to your pitch. On every sales call, I write down miscellaneous things that I'm going to be able to use and say when I start presenting. This phrase that's stuck with me over the years, I don't love it, but it's called collecting bullets, or you're just collecting information that you're going to use down the road in your presentation. Let's move into phase 3, the pain stack. I've been saying a lot of things are important, but trust me when I tell you, this is the most important part of the pitch and of this video. Everything we've done so far and everything we will do is built on this phase right here. This is where the sale is truly won or lost. And 9 out of 10 salespeople get it horrifically wrong. Here's what typically happens. The prospect says something like, hey, I'm frustrated with my leads. I'm frustrated with XYZ. And the salesperson hears it. Aha, this is my moment. This is what their pain is. Let's go. But the problem is when a prospect says, I'm frustrated, that isn't the pain. It's a label for a tiny, tiny, tiny tip of the iceberg. But when the prospect says, I'm frustrated, that isn't the pain. It's actually just a tiny label for a tiny, tiny tip of a massive iceberg that we need to uncover. Real pain. Deep pain. The kind of pain that makes somebody pull their card out for 5, 10, 50, $100,000, sign on the dotted line. That kind of pain lives deep beneath the surface. It's emotional, it's specific, it's tied to their identity, their sense of self, and their relationships. This is where the psychological principle of loss aversion comes into play. Some really smart people won a Nobel Prize for this specific concept. The pain of losing is psychologically twice as powerful, 2 times, than the pleasure or the desire of gain. Your job is not to sell them the dream, contrary to popular belief. Your job is to help them uncover deeply rooted pain that will cause them to actually make a shift in their life. Every single day that they don't solve this problem, they will continue to experience said pain. Let me show you the difference. 2 prospects, same problem. Number 1, first prospect says, hey, I'm having trouble with sales. The second prospect, also having trouble with sales, it says, man, every night I look at my Stripe dashboard and month over month, I'm just seeing that number start to go down. I have bills to pay, I have a family, I have employees, and I know if I don't make a change soon, something's going to happen. Same person, but which version is going to create urgency to actually act? It's not a rhetorical question. The second one, because it's deep, it involves other people, and it connects to identity. Your job in phase 3 is to become an archaeologist of pain. Your job in phase 3 is to become an archaeologist of pain. And the tool that you use to uncover everything, it's not a brush, not a shovel, it's called the pain stack. The pain stack is a sequence of 5 levels. Most average reps are going to go through 1 and 2. The most elite salespeople go through all 5. Pay very, very close attention to level 4 though, because there's a single question that unlocks more than anything else. Level 1 is the problem or the surface level. So these questions are things like, hey, what's the biggest challenge you're facing right now? What's not working the way you want it to? At this level, they're going to give you the logical rehearsed answer. Oh, I can't get consistent leads. My close rate's too low. I want help with my taxes. This is where most reps just start pitching. Don't. We are literally just getting started. Level 2 is the specifics. Now you're going to demand evidence. You're going to force them out of these abstract concepts into a real memory. Versions of these questions are things like, can you walk me through a specific example of what happened recently? What did that actually look like last week, last month, over the last year? Specificity is the enemy of vagueness. I'm stressed is a thought. Hey, I woke up at 2 a.m. thinking about this. That's a visceral experience. So at level 2, you are pushing for a specific story. When did it happen? What were you doing? Who else was there? Who else is impacted by this? And that ties in perfectly to level 3, impact. Now you're going to connect to the specific problem to real consequences. This is where you're going to ask specific questions like, hey, when this happens, what does that cause for you? How is this affecting your business, your income, your time? Then here they're going to start connecting the dots between everything. Hey, I can't predict revenue, or I waste money on ads that don't work. I'm working 60 hours a week and not moving forward. Do you see how now we've already started to connect their pain to actual consequences? Now we're going to get to level 4 and things start to get juicy. We're going to talk about the meaning. This is the question that most salespeople are terrified to ask because frankly, they haven't earned the right, because most salespeople are going to jump from number 1 to number 4. But when you ask all these questions in the specific order, now you have earned the right to ask this question. If you don't go through the full order, it's going to feel personal. It's going to feel too invasive, but this is where the sale is made. These questions are things like, why does that matter to you specifically? What does that mean for you personally? Not just the business. This is where you connect the business problem to their human experience, to their identity, to their relationships, to their self-worth. Contrary to what you heard, people don't buy coaching, consulting, high-ticket services because of their broken business. They buy it to fix what their broken business is doing to them personally. Once they say something like, hey, my employees, my wife, they're on my back and I don't know how to solve this problem. I don't have an answer for them. Now you have true pain and now you have a sale. Finally, level 5 is the cost of inaction. This is where you make pain a trajectory. You're not just talking about pain today. You're talking about what that pain looks like if it continues a month, 6 months, a year, 10 years. If nothing changes. Questions like, hey, if nothing changes and you're in the exact same spot 6 to 12 months from now, where does that leave you? What's the cost of staying on your current path? If you didn't get on the call with me today, or if you didn't find a solution for this, what's your plan? What happens to your relationships, health, sanity, if you keep going this path? Again, just hearing these questions without going through the full list of the first 4, they feel clunky, they feel personal, But the thing is, if you have done everything properly, you have earned the right to ask these. This question forces them to confront the future costs of their current reality. It makes inaction feel like a decision to accept more pain in the future. All right, let me walk you through what this could look like in practice without just talking about theory. Prospect says, hey, I just can't seem to get consistent leads. Now, a typical rep would say, got it, let me show you how we can get you more leads. Instead, what you do is you say something like, hey, can you walk me through what that looked like over the past month specifically? That's level 2. You're asking for specifics. Prospect says, hey, I spent about $2,000 on ads. I got a couple book calls. None of them closed. So I just turned off the ads because I felt like I was burning cash. And you respond with something like, okay, so when that happens, you spend the money, the calls don't convert, and you feel forced to turn everything off. What does that cause for you on a day-to-day basis? How else are you getting leads? Are there any other revenue sources? You see that tonality, concern, and we're talking about specifics and mirroring them. Now, here's the thing. Most reps right here at phase 3, they're going to stop. They got the pain. They think, oh man, they're second guessing things. They think they're bad at sales. Perfect. Let me talk about how my solution solves it. Not you after this video. You're going to pause, slow down, and say something like, and when you're in that headspace, second guessing every decision, like, what does that do for you personally? That's level 4, and that's the money question. After that, the prospect pauses, says, hey man, it's exhausting. My wife sees me work 12-hour days, and she's asking if things are like how things are going, and I don't have a great answer for her. Personally, I feel like I'm failing. When they say something like that, that's where things shift from a business problem to a personal problem. When they say something like, man, I feel like I'm failing. I feel like I'm not doing what I should do. That is a human reaction. And that's what we're trying to get to. Detach from the business and get deep to the human that's actually making the decision. Now, your response is going to be something like, hey, I appreciate you sharing that. Let me ask you one more thing. If we're having this exact same conversation 6 months from now, you're still spinning your wheels, feeling exhausted, or if we hadn't have even hopped on the call today, what was your plan? Not having an answer for her? Like, what does that look like for you 6 months, 12 months from now? Let the silence hang. Now the prospect's sitting in the full weight of their problem. The business need is clear, and now you have a closable deal. The question is always, well, like, how do I know if I went deep enough? You're going to have these things called depth indicators. There's 5 of them. Number 1, the pace changes. When somebody's giving you rehearsed surface level answers, probably the same answers that they've given to every single salesperson, it's a quick response. When they're assessing real emotion, they pause, they slow down, they actually think before speaking. If the answers are still coming through fast and polished, you probably haven't gone through enough pain. Signal number 2 is specific people start to appear. Their employees, their spouse, their kids, their business partner. When other humans enter the conversation, the problem has become relational. It's no longer this abstract business idea. Signal number 3 is emotion enters the room. You hear it in their voice, their tone shifts, they sigh, they might adjust in their chair. Not I'm frustrated as a label. You can actually feel their emotion. Signal number 4 is they pause before responding. When they pause, they're actually thinking through their answer, and they're giving a thoughtful response. Again, not surface level. They're processing, not performing. Performance is fast. Processing is slow. A long pause before answering level 4 and level 5 questions is an amazing sign. Signal number 5, they start connecting the dots and having a revelation. They hopefully say things like, hey, I haven't looked at it that way. That's interesting. I haven't thought about that. That means you help them realize something new. They're now viewing that problem differently. This is the foundation for your pitch. If you're not seeing at least 2 or 3 of these signals, it means you have not gone deep enough. Stay in phase 3 and 4 before moving on. Don't move on until you get these things. Remember, if you rush discovery because it's uncomfortable, you are going to pay double, triple the price in overcoming objections later. And those objections you created for yourself because you didn't have the tough conversations. All right, if you are still with me, you have understood the most important part of all high-ticket sales, the pain stack. This alone is going to transform your close rates, but we're still not done. We still have to understand how to define their dream outcome, how to pitch without sounding salesy, and most importantly, how to close effortlessly. Let's keep it rolling. Phase 4 and 5, now we're going to talk about outcome and commitment. Phase 4 is defining the win. All right, at this point, we've thoroughly diagnosed the pain. We understand the cost of the problem, both logically and emotionally. Now we need to build their vision of the future. This is based on a principle called gap selling. People don't buy products, people don't buy services, people don't buy consulting or coaching. They buy a bridge from their painful present to their promised future. We just spent like 15, 20 minutes defining their current state. Now we need to define their clear, beautiful future. The bigger the gap between their current state and their desired reality makes your bridge all the more valuable. That's why discovery is so important. Here's the first question, and people have been asking a version of this, but I call it the magic wand. So the script goes something like this. Hey, I appreciate you sharing that with me. Now let's shift gears for a second. If we could wave a magic wand and build the absolute ideal situation for you in the next 12 months, what would that actually look like? Maybe a little less salesy version of that, or a little more authentic version is, okay, so assuming we figure out these problems in the next year, what does that actually look like? What is the ideal outcome for you? You can sometimes ask that straight up for more sophisticated buyers. Here's the key. Let them dream. Don't interrupt. Let them chat. Leave like a 2-second gap between what they're saying before you respond to anything. Then it's your job to make their dream concrete. Let me explain. Number 1, we have to make it measurable. Asking questions like, hey, that sounds great. What specific number would make this feel like a massive win? Revenue, new clients, hours you get back? By when would you want this to happen? After we make it measurable, we have to make it emotional. If you hit that number, what does that really give you? What would you be able to do that you can't do right now? Most prospects, and probably you too, have really vague goals. I want to make $1 million. I want more revenue. I want more freedom, less stress. Vague desires create vague decisions. Your job is to create specificity. When they say something like, hey, I want to make my first 50K month. I want to take my family on vacation. I want more time freedom. I want to build a business that doesn't need me. That's a vision worth fighting for. And that's something worth investing in. Before we move to commitment questions, we need to build our bridge. You're going to summarize everything you just heard because this is what proves, number 1, you were actually listening. And this is that allows them to hear their problems and conceptualize things with you. An easy way to say this is, okay, cool. So based on everything I've heard, let me make sure I'm understanding you correctly. Right now, you're struggling with pain 1, pain 2, and it's costing you, insert emotional impact here. What you want instead is to achieve specific outcome by specific timeline, which would give you, insert personal win here. Did I capture that correctly? Or does that sound right to you? Wait for them to confirm. They should say something like, yep, that's exactly it. Now, here's a tip that most salespeople are going to miss. Like, they're going to do all this stuff and they're going to skip this one question. This one question has helped me close so many deals over the years. Perfect. What else should I know? Say it like that. What else should I know? It's not, is there anything else I should know? What else? The reason why you ask it that way is because the difference between an open-ended question and a closed-ended question. When you ask, is there anything else? They can say, no, that's fine. When you say, what else should I know? What else is there? This opens the door for the final little bit of pain or whatever else might be lingering in there that we didn't cover yet. If they say, nope, that's it, perfect. Otherwise, you're going to get one more nugget and another crack to go out and close them down the road. With that being said, now they have confirmed their pain and their desired outcome in one statement. At this point, now you have earned the right to move on. Here's a bonus. This is something that's added to the last thing. If you put all of this together, oh my gosh, you're going to lock up so many deals. You're going to say something like, hey, that's great. What else should I know? They're going to respond. By the way, when I talk with people that are sharp like yourself, they've probably tried other things in the past and they didn't quite deliver. Is there any skepticism or any concerns that you have working with me that we should address before jumping in? This question allows them to, again, voice their fears, voice their concerns. That way we can explain away those concerns before we've even entered the pitch. Do you see how when you talk about it in the discovery, when you're diagnosing like a doctor, it doesn't feel like an overcoming objection? If you wait until the end and they say, well, I've tried things in the past, and now you're in sales mode and they can sniff right through that. When you diffuse that objection now, again, check that off the box. You're not going to be dealing with that in the close. Now let's move into phase 5. We're going to talk about commitment and constraints. Phase 5 is all about qualifying. By the way, you should already know if this person's qualified based on their application, based on what they said. Also, if you've asked a couple of good discovery questions, but here we're going to really dig into it. The difference between buyers and thinkers usually comes down to 3 variables: time, money, and decision authority. You have to get clarity on all 3 before you jump into the pitch. Time. So now you're going to say, hey, to achieve your desired outcome, typically it's going to take 3, 5, 10 hours per week or whatever it might be. What needs to shift to create that space? You need to listen for real answers and make sure that it's actually realistic, that they can commit to whatever time commitment is required from your product or service. Resources. Okay, so like how much capital have you set aside to solving this problem? What's the budget? How much have you set aside to actually make this thing come true? Notice the framing. It's not, well, how much budget do you have to spend with me? It's how much capital have you set aside to solve this problem? Totally different. Next is decision authority. Hey, in the past when you made these decisions, is there anybody else that needs to be involved? Brother-in-law, wife, spouse, whoever it might be. If they mention somebody, you're going to follow up with, hey, like, is there anything that you think that they would be concerned with when making this decision? If they saw the same value you see, would they support your decision? And if you get any adverse things here, it is better just to end the conversation, rebook with said partner. Finally, you can test with some sort of bonus like priority question. So it says something like, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 where it's nice to have someday, and a 10 being, I need to solve this yesterday. And based on what you told me, it sounds like a 10, but I want to hear it from you. How urgent is fixing it right now? If they say anything below an 8, you're going to say, hey, well, what needs to happen in order to make it a 10? If they can't answer that, they are not ready to buy. And it's way better to know now than for you to waste another 20, 30 minutes in a pitch and trying to overcome objections. Once you've gotten an 8 or higher, now we have finally earned the right to pitch. Now we're going to transition with a permission-based question. Based off everything you told me, I'm confident that this is a problem we can help you solve. Would it be okay if I shared with you my recommendation? They're going to say yes. And at this point, now they're not being pitched. They are eagerly waiting your prescription. All right, if you've done the first 5 phases correctly, this is literally the easiest part of the entire call. You're no longer selling. You're simply connecting their present pain and their future desired outcome and how your product, service, solution is the bridge. We use a structure I call the 3-pitch bridge. Bridge 1 is reframing the real problem. You position yourself as an expert who sees what they couldn't see. You're going to say something like, hey, based on what you shared, I think I see the real problem, and it's probably not what you think. The problem isn't the surface level they answered in phase 1 and 2. The real problem is your root cause that you identified in phase 4 and 5. That's why XYZ hasn't worked in the past. They were treating symptoms, not the real cause. This establishes your diagnostic credibility, and you understand them deeper than they do. Now, bridge 2 is your unique mechanism. This is your methodology. This is your product. This is your service. This is how you stand out. Now, here's the big key. Most salespeople are going to make this mistake. They're going to start feature dropping. They're going to talk about all the different ways that their product or service works. The weekly calls, the one-on-one help, the logistics, the roofing, the solar, whatever it is. Don't feature dump. What you're going to do instead is you're going to just pick the top 3 to 5 things that the prospect actually said were important to them. Again, remember, collecting bullets. And now we're just going to use those things in our pitch. And the way you're going to do this is you're going to explain it just this way. Hey, what we do differently is XYZ. Instead of the old way, what they've tried, we do, and then now you're going to implement your new approach. That's how we're going to get you to insert desired result here. Then bridge 3 is connecting to the outcome. Most importantly, using their words. Mirror their exact language back to them. This is critical. Remember when you said you wanted XYZ from phase 4? That's exactly what this is designed to give you, and here's why. And then you're going to tie it into their desired outcome and their timeline. When they hear their own words tied to their own desired outcome, sales resistance melts like a snowman in July. It feels like you're describing something they already believe in, not something you're just trying to sell them. This is key. Keep your pitch 8 to 10 minutes max. Every feature that you mention is just another seed of confusion, and a confused buyer does not buy. Confusion creates objections. I'll say that again. Confusion creates objections. Be clear and concise. Now, once you've explained everything, this is extremely critical. You have to get buy-in on the solution before you talk about price. This is a big, big mistake that salespeople make. This is the final gate before we finally talk about price. I call it the solution buy-in question. It's going to be some variation of this question. Putting the investment aside for a second, based off everything I mentioned, do you feel like this would actually get you the results? Or, hey, money aside, do you feel like this actually checks the boxes that you listed? Pause. You got to pause, let them answer, and it needs to be a clear yes. If it's not a heck yes, it's a heck no at this point. If they hesitate or say anything less than yes, you're going to go back and ask, hey, all right, well, what part of this doesn't feel like a fit? Or one of my favorite questions, this phrase has helped me close so many deals over the years. Hey, based off everything I listed, what do you feel like is missing from what I just shared to help you get desired result? This idea is pulled from Chris Voss. He has an idea called always start with no. When you ask no-based questions, it opens the door up for the prospect to share more. So I say, hey, is there anything in here that's missing or that you don't see? It's a great question. But ideally, again, if we've done our job right and hopefully we've covered everything and they say, nope, this is exactly what I need. Now we have isolated the conversation to one clear thing: price. They've agreed the solution is correct. They've agreed that this will actually help them achieve their goal. But if they say, yes, this is exactly what they need, then you have finally isolated that it is no longer a question of the product or the solution. The only question is whether or not their idea, their goals, everything that you just had them agree to is worth the price you're about to share. And that's where we're going to go next. You've diagnosed the pain. You've defined the dream. You've gotten buy-in on the solution. Now it's time to identify the investment. How you do this is just as important as the actual dollar amount itself. The more you justify or try to explain the price, the more you signal that you're not confident and that the price is negotiable. The script's super simple. It goes like this. All right, so the investment into insert your product here to get you their desired outcome is $10,000. This includes everything we discussed. And then you're going to list their outcomes. Outcome 1, outcome 2. We're going to support you every step of the way, whatever support features you have. This is going to have everything you need to make this happen. If you want to get started, onboarding steps are simple. We're going to send you the email, blah, 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 blah. All I have to do is collect payment. Absolutely no rush. I can take the card whenever you're ready. And then you are going to do the hardest thing in all of sales. You're going to shut up and wait and hear their response. The old school thing of the person who talks first loses. I know I was talking crap about old school things in the beginning, but that one still rings true. You're going to let them mull it over and let them say whatever they got to say. Silence is your greatest ally here. The mistake that weak salespeople make is they immediately start trying to justify the price. And the reason why it's so much is because of X, or I know it's a big investment, but it's going to get you to XYZ. Cut it. You need to be the most confident you have ever been in your life in this moment. State the number, state the outcome, stop talking, and let them process. Your silence communicates way more than actually speaking. It communicates that the price is the price, you're confident in it, and the value that it represents. Now we move into objection handling. No matter how well you do discovery, at the end of the day, you will get some sort of objections. So prepare for it. The way I look at objections is an objection is not rejection. It's a request for more clarity. Your job is not to fight the objection. It's to uncover the root cause of their uncertainty. Every objection can be handled with a universal pattern called the NEPQ loop. And you've probably heard some version of this, but this is the way I look at it. Number 1, we're going to acknowledge and normalize. Number 2, we're going to clarify and probe. 3, isolate. 4, re-anchor. 5, propose a path forward. And let me outline what that means. I'll apply this to like the most common objection that you're going to get. And also I'm going to outline the 9-word phrase that has helped me close so many deals. So the objection that we're all going to get at some point is it's too much money. So number 1, first, we're going to acknowledge and normalize. I get it. It's a significant investment. Second is clarify and probe. You're going to say it just like this. Hey, so let me understand. When you say it's too expensive, do you mean it's more expensive than you were expecting, or that you're not sure it's worth, and then insert result here? This is a critical distinction. More expensive than expected. This is a cash flow problem. Not sure it's worth it. That is a value question. You have to know which one you're solving. Now, here's the 9-word sentence that is absolutely lethal. If you use this properly and you've gone through all the correct discovery questions, this is going to close you deals. You got to do it confidently though. After you acknowledge and clarify, if they are still hesitant, you're going to sit down, you're going to look them in the eye, you're going to look them in the camera, and you're going to say this. So it's not the price, it's your belief that it's going to work. This question is a logic bomb. And here's why. Just a few minutes ago, they agreed and said, yes, this product is going to help me. I believe it will help me. So this question gently forces them to confront that contradiction. If the solution works, the price is worth it. So it's not about the price, it's about their uncertainty or their lingering fear. And that's an objection that you can actually solve. When they admit, yeah, I guess I'm just not sure if it's going to work for me. Now you can ask, hey, what would need to be true in order for you to feel confident that it's going to work? Now you're addressing the real issue, not trying to shadow box their smokescreen of price. Let's jump through another objection. They say, hey, I need to think about it. Your response is, hey, that's totally fair. When you say you need to think about it, what specifically do you feel you need to think through? Is it the investment or whether it'll work for you, the timing? Can you help me understand? The key here is to force the vague into the specific. If they say, hey, well, I just need to process it. Okay, totally understand. What information would you need from me to help you make a decision? Because if you're missing something right now, I'd rather just address it while we're on the call. So that way you have all the information you need to make this decision. And then you're going to re-anchor them. You're going to say something like, hey, so based on what you told me, that blank pain is costing you, insert impact, and you want insert outcome by insert timeline. Does waiting get you there faster or does it cost you more time? And we know the answer. Listen, if you have done the work at this point, the close is actually anticlimactic. I know it's romanticized in movies and all these books, but ultimately, if you've done it properly, it's, hey, do you have any other questions or are we ready to get started? That's it. Simple, clean, straight to the point. Here are some alternative closes, like just in case you need them. My personal favorite, I've been using this one since I sold software. It was, hey, absolutely no rush, but I'm ready for the card whenever you are. Easy, smooth. I love it. Next is the calendar close. Hey, so when would you want to kick this off? This week or next? And then the last one is like a permission close. So does this feel like the right time to move? Here's the overarching principle with the close. And honestly, this is just an overarching principle for life. Detachment closes deals. The more attached you are to an outcome, the more a prospect can feel this like desperation energy. The more detached you are, the safer the prospect feels buying. It's counterintuitive, but consistently true. A huge mistake I see with rookie salespeople is the prospect says yes, and they just want to keep on explaining stuff. No, they say yes, we are collecting the payment, we're moving on, we're signing the contract, we are wrapping up immediately. If they say no, you're going to say something like, hey, I appreciate you being honest. What would need to be true in the future for you to make this decision? This preserves your relationship so that way you can touch base with them and follow up. And it also gives you information to maybe go for a close one more time or at a minimum have enough info to follow up with at their desired time. All right, if you made it this far, you're going to get way more bonuses and you're going to be rewarded for watching this whole video. So the next piece of this is what I call the recovery, or what happens when you screw up, because you inevitably will. And it happens. You're going to get excited. You're going to pitch too early. You're going to realize you didn't go deep enough and you're going to be getting close to your pitch. And you're like, I have no pain to build on. Here's the first recovery move. It's going to be the honest redirect. You're going to say something like, hey, you know what? I want to back up for a second. I realized I jumped ahead before I fully understood your situation. Can we go back to something you said earlier? And then you're going to insert whatever they said and you're going to dig deeper. This is why taking notes are important. Here's the second recovery move. If you're in the pitch and you feel like, you're pitching and it's just not landing, you're going to seriously stop the pitch and you're going to say, hey, actually, let me stop here. I'm explaining this, but I'm not sure it's actually addressing what got you on the call and what matters to you. What's the main thing you need to solve right now? This is next level stuff, and this honesty is what's going to get you to close the deal. The third recovery move is like the post objection reset. If you hit a hard objection and you realize that you got nothing to overcome it because you didn't do a good enough job in discovery, you're going to say something like, hey, that's a fair point. I might have skipped something earlier. Can you share a little bit more about, and then insert the thing you should have explored. Here's the key principle for when you mess up. Sales calls are not performances. They're conversations. When you treat a sales call like a performance and you don't hit it the right way, you feel like you screwed up. If you treat them like genuine problem-solving conversations, you can kind of mix and match and figure things out. To take the performance analogy a step further, the best salespeople, they almost act like great actors. And what I mean by that is they're not being facetious, they're not lying to their prospects, but they know their questions and their script inside and out, just like a great actor does. When Leonardo DiCaprio is speaking with somebody in the movie, he knows their lines, exactly what they're going to say, how they're going to say it. Just like a great salesperson knows exactly when they ask a question, there are only 3 to 4 responses that their prospect is going to share. So if you know how to respond to those and you know how to have a conversation and then eventually loop back into the desired questions you need to ask, you are going to be lethal in sales. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap this up with 10 final principles to leave you with in this diagnostic selling approach. You can write these down, print them out. These are the core tenets, the 10 commandments of diagnostic selling. Number 1, the close happens in discovery, not at the end. Number 2, you're not here to convince, you're here to help them convince themselves. Number 3, use their words, not your own. Number 4, silence is a tool. Use it after key questions and stating price. Number 5, objections are symptoms. Diagnose the disease. Number 6, specificity is the enemy of vagueness. Number 7, people buy on emotion and justify with logic. Hit both. That's a big one. Number 8, never, ever, ever discount trade. Number 9, detachment closes deals. The less you need, the more likely you are to get. What a counterintuitive, but deeply, deeply valuable principle. And number 10, a clean no beats a fuzzy maybe. And I'll expand on that because I didn't really talk about follow-up too much. In the hierarchy of sales, there are 3 things that can happen: a yes, a no, a maybe. A rookie salesperson is afraid of a no. An experienced salesperson knows that a no is the next best thing you can get. Everybody wants a yes. A no is the next best thing because we want decisions. A maybe is death. A maybe leaves me stuck in follow-up land, and I have to have mental bandwidth and mental energy be spent on that person. All right, guys, if you got value out of this, let me know in the comments what you want me to create more content around. My goal is to create extremely valuable content that you can actually go out and implement. These are the same exact principles that has helped us do over $50 million in online revenue. I'm going to create more content around marketing and get really, really deep into each topic. Now, if you've watched this video and you're a business owner and you're like, dude, that is way too much. I don't want to go into this depth. I would rather just have somebody else do it. That's what I'm here for. We are revenue partners, so we help grow your sales, marketing, all in one. The biggest mistake that most agency owners make is they're really good at sales, but they don't know marketing. We are the full package. So if it is something that's interesting, click the link. Would love to chat. If not, thank you so much, guys. I hope this was valuable. God bless you. See you in the next one.